listener production.
Hello, Sasha Barbagat with you. Welcome to The Briefing. Whether you're back at work from a bit of a break over summer or you haven't stopped over the holiday period, 2025 might be the moment you start thinking about your next career move. But is now the right time to be considering a change?
The best time to be looking for a job is when you're looking for a new job.
The Briefing team have got you covered with what you need to know. That's in the second half of this episode. To start us off though, let's get into the headlines with Chris Spyrou on Wednesday, the 8th of January.
Morning, Sash. Morning, everybody. We start today talking about Meta. They're scrapping their independent fact-checkers in what's being labelled a major capitulation to Donald Trump. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced the move in a video statement confirming Instagram and Facebook would move to a model similar to X.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
So instead of these employed fact-checkers, both platforms will move to include community notes like X, which allows users to flag posts as inaccurate and add context. This model was introduced after Elon Musk bought the social media company, and he bought the company back in 2022, Sash.
Yeah, Zuckerberg claims third-party moderators are too politically biased and their presence on Facebook and Insta has led to censorship of users. Now, this move is already copping a lot of criticism, with some suggesting the change is motivated by the incoming Trump presidency. Remember, it was back in 2016 that Meta first brought in independent fact-checkers, and this was after it was found that foreign actors had been spreading fake news on Facebook around the US election. Now, this is being brought in the US first. There are currently no immediate plans to bring this in other countries, but it's only a matter of time, really. So Trump has previously been a really vocal critic of Meta and its approach to content moderation. He called Facebook an enemy of the people in March 2024. But now we've seen Zuckerberg dining at Mar-a-Lago, which he did in November. Meta also donated $1 million to an inauguration fund for Trump. So that goes to that belief that Zuckerberg's just trying to get Trump on his good side, really. And look at what happened with Elon Musk as well. I want to bring in a quote from a campaign group called Global Witness, which aims to hold big tech to account. So they're really against this, saying that claiming to avoid censorship is a political move to avoid taking responsibility for hate and disinformation that platforms encourage and facilitate. And to that point, I mean, have you spent any time on X lately?
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
Not only is it full of mis and disinformation, there's really troubling content on there, essentially snuff videos that aren't getting picked up anymore, that are just out there on the platform for anyone to see, let alone kids. I don't like stumbling across videos of people being killed or anything. And, you know, that's just one kind of, I think, result of what we've seen with this, with Elon Musk's approach to just taking his hands off the steering wheel and going, we'll let users kind of do what they want. We don't want to censor them. But at the end of the day, they have a responsibility to their users. And it's really interesting because the Australian government's trying really hard to stamp out, or at least tackle, the increasing harm that people are being exposed to online, particularly teenagers. So it'll be really interesting to see Anthony Albanese's response to this.
Back home now, house prices have fallen nationally for the first time in 21 months. According to leading property data analysts CoreLogic, home values in Australia fell by 0.1% in December, and that trend is expected to continue in the first half of this year, but experts say it won't last too long. Speaking to the Listener newsroom, CoreLogic's head of research, Eliza Owen, attributes the downturn to a widening gap between incomes and interest rates.
So the higher for longer interest rate environment has been a big factor in finally pushing values lower through December.
Interestingly, while she expects to see similar declines over the next few months, she says the data isn't indicative that housing affordability will dramatically improve in the longer term, saying first home buyers appear willing to accept higher housing costs now on the expectation interest rates will fall.
Yes, and let's speak about that because today the all-important inflation data is being released and economists are expecting some good news, which could be enough to convince the Reserve Bank to finally cut the official cash rate. Now, while headline inflation is tipped to rise slightly, the trimmed inflation rate, which is seen as a more accurate indication of how things are going, is expected to fall and come in well under the central bank's forecast. Now, what that could mean is a rate cut at the first meeting of the year of the RBA, which is happening on February 18.
Yeah, and a rate cut is something that a lot of Aussies will be welcoming, especially after the Christmas period where we saw a lot of Aussies get into debt, just to pay for all the things that come with the festive season. We have this recent survey by consumer comparison site Finder. They found around 1.7 million Australians owed $2.7 billion in holiday spending, with the average shopper entering $1,600 of debt over the Christmas period. So that was a survey of 1,000 Aussies, and one of the key findings is that 1 in 5 would need at least 6 months to pay off the debt that they got into over the Christmas period.
To Western Australia now, where 3 people remain missing after a light plane crashed into waters off Rottnest Island. The private aircraft nosedived shortly after takeoff, with 3 people found with serious injuries. Another person is believed to have suffered minor injuries.
At about 4 p.m, police were advised that a privately owned aircraft had crashed into the water off the coast of Rottnest. Water police and a number of civilian vessels provided immediate aid in an attempt to assist in the rescue.
So that was WA Police Commissioner Cole Blanche there. A major search and rescue mission has been launched to try to find 3 other passengers who haven't been seen since the crash.
And Donald Trump Jr. has touched down in Greenland as his dad refuses to rule out taking control of the country. The incoming US president has repeated his desire to secure the autonomous nation, which is a Danish territory, saying it is critical to America's national security. He was quizzed about his purchasing desires at a press conference this morning, our time, and was asked to rule out using military or economic coercion to secure the territory.
I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
It's important to note this response was also in reference to the Panama Canal, which Trump has also expressed an interest in taking over. Now, his son has arrived in Greenland on a Trump jet, but he says he's only meeting with locals on a personal day trip and he's not going to be speaking with local authorities. And they have also confirmed that, Chris. Now, before he touched down, Trump Sr. actually posted to Truth Social saying, Greenland is an incredible place and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes part of our nation.
God.
Make Greenland great again. Now, we've seen images of Trump Jr. At Nuuk, which is the capital, posing with locals with Make America Great Again hats. And it's worth noting as well, Donald Trump has previously expressed interest in buying the Arctic island. He did it during his first term and he was rebuffed then. He has been again now because when asked about Trump Jr.'s visit to Greenland, the Danish Prime Minister said that Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders and that only the local population could determine their future. Something interesting that's also happened is King Frederick, who of course is married to our Mary from Tassie, the King of Denmark. He has made this move to change the royal coat of arms. Now, this has only happened 3 times since the early 1800s. And what it does now is it features the Greenland and Faroe Islands imagery more prominently. So people are looking at that as a bit of an up yours to Trump and the visit of his son. Interesting to see what happens there as Trump takes the presidency as well. Chris, thank you so much for being here for the headlines. Next up, it's our deep dive looking into whether you should consider a career change in 2025.
We're fresh into a new year, which means you might have spent the last few days doing a little or a lot of reflecting on where you're at in life. And at any point, did you think about your job? Whether it makes you happy, makes you enough money, or even if it can take you where you really want to go. If any of that resonated with you, you're in the right place, because today we're going to run you through what you need to know about changing careers in 2025. And who better than career consultant and recruiter Tammie Ballis from Realistic Careers. Tammie, welcome to the briefing. Firstly, should I be changing careers in 2025?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, the thing is with changing careers, a lot of people hesitate because of the unknown, right? But if you don't try it, you're never going to know. And what's the worst that can happen? You try it, you don't like it, and you go back to it. The only thing is, do your research. Depends on what financial situation you're in as well. Do be prepared to take a pay cut. You're going to start from the bottom again, depending on the severity of the career change, how much they want to pivot. If you don't have the transferable skills, it's going to be harder. If you do have the transferable skills but you're changing industries, that's going to be a lot easier. So there's a lot of nonsense online where they make out that it's so easy to change careers. It's not. It's going to be hard, but that's okay. People can do it. You can absolutely do it. Just do your research, understand that it's not going to be easy, and go ahead first. Try it. You never know. You might love it. Most of the time they do. They might not like it, and that's okay too.
You've spoken there about transferable skills. What are some of the key transferable skills that you kind of see career changers having and something that they really should be putting at the top of, let's say, their resume?
It's the corporate skills, your Microsoft Office, knowing how to communicate effectively in a business sense. A lot of people, when they're transferring, especially when they're coming into corporate or they want to get an office job, they don't have those skills. Doing emails and your home admin isn't the same as it would be at work, so in a professional manner. So go and learn those skills. You can do a lot of free courses. If you want, even go and volunteer. There's a website called volunteer.com.au, which you can jump on, volunteer, so you're getting some experience and you're doing well for the community as well. And if you can get some of those skills, practice them, practice touch typing. It's a basic skill that a lot of people don't have. That is what's going to help you move. That's what's going to help you pivot.
In terms of acquiring those skills, what do you think is the best timing to get that done? Is that something that I should be doing while I'm in my current role? Is that something I should be leaving my current role, getting that training and then applying? What's your advice in that situation?
My opinion on that is if you're in a job and you can see if you can work a few hours in the admin team or even volunteer after hours with the admin team just to learn, that is the easier way because it's already there for you. Right, you don't have to, make new relationships, put yourself out there. You're already working in the business, so utilise what you have in front of you. Yes, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be a bit hard. Hi, tapping on someone's shoulder. Hi, can I mirror you for a few weeks? But most of the time, people are more than welcoming to people that do want to advance their careers. And especially if they want to learn. And it's also a good thing for the person that's teaching them too. That's something that they can put on their resume, or that's something that they can even sell themselves for when they're going for the next promotion. Training someone also shows how well you know the job as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what if a career change requires further education? How would you recommend someone goes about that?
Do your research first. Right, do your research first. The easiest way to do your research is by going on job boards, having a look at the job advertisements of the job that you want to go into or the career that you want to go into and see what they're requiring. A lot of the time they can differ, but you will find out everything you need to know from a job advertisement. And if you see a common trend where it says you need a degree or you need a TAFE certificate or whatever certification it is, then you go and do it. But make sure, if you're not sure, see if you can get industry experience first. Go and work in it first. I would always suggest that because people go and do certificates and realise I've just wasted all this money. I don't like what it is, but I feel like I have to go into this career now because I've wasted all that money doing that education.
In your experience, what are you finding are the main or most common reasons that people are switching careers?
Money. Right, in what I'm seeing. So I'm not too sure if you've noticed teachers in Victoria are the lowest paid, so they're moving states. Nurses in New South Wales are the lowest paid in the country and they're moving states. We're in trouble. So it's mainly because of money. Second one would be flexibility. But again, that also requires a career change, upskilling, maybe learning a new trade, because flexibility doesn't just mean corporate work from home. It's a whole different kettle of fish when it comes to different careers to have flexibility. But yeah, first one's money, second one's flexibility, in my opinion.
Contextually now, we're in the first 2 weeks of January. Do you think timing-wise now is a good time to be looking?
The best time to be looking for a job is when you're looking for a new job. It is going to get busier, usually come end of January, early February when school goes back. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looking for a job. Understand that when it does get busier, it is going to get more competitive as well. So you'll be up against more candidates because they're all thinking the same thing. I'll just wait until the job market opens up again. No, if an employer has a vacancy, that means they've got a problem. You need to be the one that's solving that problem, apply for that job.
Some recruiters say that you should be looking for a new job whilst you have a job because of that, almost a traditional view that gaps in your resume isn't a great look. Is that still the case in 2025 after a pandemic and amid a cost of living crisis?
Look, I think people that focus on gaps on resumes aren't well versed, not well trained in recruitment. Recruiters know that life happens, right? Whether that's your mum being unwell, you've decided to take a holiday for 6 months, education, things happen in life. We see it all the time, right? A gap really shouldn't be a problem. A gap is a problem when it's for a long, extended period of time, and it's more of a worry that the person's lost their skills over that time and they haven't shown that they've been upskilling or they haven't shown that they've been doing anything. And again, that's a different kettle of fish. But I find now people, most recruiters, most employers are more accommodating because they understand a gap's a gap. Yes, you're right, especially after COVID. But again, you're going to get those narcs, you're going to get the inexperienced people that sometimes have a power trip. They do. I still get it. I still have people that are booking career coaching sessions with me because they're worried about a gap, which they shouldn't be. If you have 1 or 2 bad experiences from an employer because they're focused on the gap, that says more about them than what it does about the candidate. So just keep going. It really shouldn't be a problem. And just explain it. I had a gap because I was looking after a sick family member. That's it. Cut them short. Move on.
Well, speaking of some of those challenges, a common question that I hear, not here and not at this employment, but a common question I hear among my friends is kind of like, I don't have a good relationship with my manager. How then do I go about attaining a reference check?
Okay, so usually it's a rule of thumb, don't ask for your current manager as a reference check. Unless you're applying for an internal position where they need your current manager because that's company policy. But ask people that have either left the business, because you can do that too. People don't understand this. You can ask a previous manager that has left the business to be your reference check. Always call them and make sure they're going to advocate for you. You can use people from a previous business. Now, again, it depends on where you're applying. Some companies have policies where the reference check can't be more than 5 or 10 years old. So, it's really important to keep those relationships. Whether you like it or not, LinkedIn is good for that. It's good for keeping in touch with people in a professional manner. But, take those relationships, people that you've worked with, even sometimes senior colleagues can be your references. They don't necessarily have to be a manager, supervisor or team leader.
You've touched on something there that I really did want to ask about. What's the place now of social media and things like LinkedIn profiles and digital footprints? I know when I was applying for a job, all my elders, and by elders I mean my cousins were like 5 to 10 years older than me, they were like, clean up your Facebook, clean up your Instagram and get your LinkedIn sorted. Do we maintain that advice in 2025?
100% yes. Because if you're going, like me, for example, right, if I'm posting stuff publicly, expect someone to Google it or research you. It's not a matter of saying, it's impeaching on my privacy. It's not. You've put it out there in the world, right? So, yes, clean up your digital footprint. Put your Facebook profile, Instagram profiles on private so no one can say, have different names. You don't have to have your full name, right? Have a pseudonym. It doesn't matter. They will look. Don't put your politics on there either. It will be the make or break of a job, definitely. So just keep it all private. Make sure your LinkedIn is up to date and make sure that your LinkedIn matches your resume. This is where people get in trouble as well. They've got old information on their LinkedIn and different information on their resume, and sometimes they take off relevant experience, irrelevant experience. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't match up, it can look like you've got poor attention to detail, but also that you might be hiding something as well. Make sure they match. Same with the Seek profile too.
In terms of LinkedIn, some commentary that I'm seeing at the moment on LinkedIn is just the role of ChatGPT and using AI bots while, applying for jobs and writing cover letters and CVs and things like that. What's your view on that? How much ChatGPT, for example, should I be using when applying for a new role?
Look, don't be afraid of AI. Don't be afraid of ChatGPT. Just learn how to use it properly. The best AI is when you can't tell that it's AI. because this is what's happening as well. People are using ChatGPT. It's been around, for 4 years now, I think? I don't even know. People are using AI and ChatGPT, but they're not using it properly. So it shows, number one, you've got poor written communication skills, and number two, that you don't know how to use AI properly. There are heaps of free courses online. You could go and do paid courses at uni and TAFE to learn how to use AI. And that's another skill that people can put on their resumes. Generative AI is a technical hard skill. New South Wales Health, or the government in New South Wales, is actually saying now, if you use ChatGPT on your applications, you'll be disqualified. I've seen that on New South Wales Health, and I've seen it on another one where it specifically says it. And that's because that's exactly what they're doing. They're putting in the position description into ChatGPT. It spits out a resume. So these people are getting into the interview, being asked questions, and they can't back it up. That's what's happening. Just be honest, learn how to use it properly. And if you need to rely on ChatGPT, you're not ready for that job.
Yeah, and in preparation for this interview, I was, scrolling your content and watching some of the things that you're talking about. And a reoccurring theme is that you spot a lot of common mistakes when it comes to resumes or CVs, whatever we want to call them. What are the top 3 or 5 that you see and you look at and you go, damn it, just do better?
It's the colourful resumes, number one. People think that colourful resumes is going to make you stand out, and it makes you stand out for the wrong reasons, because they're hard to read and it messes up with the applicant tracking or the recruitment platforms. Now, there is a place for creative resumes, creative industries. They're needed for those type of industries, but for the average Joe like me that's working in every other industry, have a boring word format, ATS-friendly style of resume. That is the biggest one that I see. There's the profile picture on the resumes. Again, that's coming internationally, right? Because we're having, a lot of people coming in from overseas. That's the standard for some of the countries. It's not the Aussie standard, right? It opens up the door to discrimination. It's old school, and it's just not needed. You should be getting the job based on merit. Number 2 would be having too many personal details. So your home address, your religion. It's not needed, just your city, your state, or the country, town in your state. That's it. They don't need to know. At the end of the day, you don't know who's looking at your resume. And again, it opens up the door to discrimination. People will judge, they live too far. They're not going to drive 30 minutes to work every day. Those would be the 3 biggest ones.
All right, so we've got black and white resumes.
Yes.
Stay away from the pictures,
yes,
and do not overshare personal details irrelevant to the job.
Yes,
all right, great.
Exactly.
We can summarize that safely. Hey, look, my last question for you is, what are some emerging industries or new roles that you think career changers should be keeping their eye on at the moment?
Digital automation. And those jobs are starting to pop up. They're starting to hire people that know how to prompt properly, that know how to use AI properly, that know how to work in the digital space to help businesses with automation. That's a new one that's emerging. That'll be good for the people that are methodical, that are tech heads. That would it'd be really good for them. It's new though, right? So I'm sure within 5 years it'll be more sophisticated. They'll know exactly what they want. But that's one that's coming up, and that's coming from, a corporate health recruiter.
That was Tammie Ballis from Realistic Careers speaking with me there. Tammie posts a whole heap of tips and tricks on her socials. Just search Career Coach Tammie and you'll find her on Instagram and TikTok. That is it for this episode of The Briefing. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, though, we'd love it if you could share this episode with someone who you think might enjoy it or get something out of it. Maybe you got a mate who's trying to change careers and they need all the help they can get. So feel free to share this and flick it their way. That's a really easy way that you can support us and all that we do here at The Briefing. So we're sharing our social posts. So be sure to check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast, and on TikTok and YouTube, search Listener Newsroom. And don't forget, we will be back in your feed with an episode this afternoon from 3. I'm Chris Spyrou. Catch you next time.
Listener.